"Don't throw away my sister's teddy bear," the little girl cried out, her voice trembling as tears spilled down her cheeks. Her tiny hands clutched the stuffed animal like it was the last thing she had left in the world. The worker, wearing a dusty brown uniform, rolled his eyes and reached into the trash bin again. "Kid, this thing is old. It stinks. It belongs in the garbage." "Not in this fancy house," he muttered, yanking the teddy bear free from her arms. "No, please," she begged, her voice rising higher. "That's my sister's. She's not here anymore. Please don't throw it away." The man scowled, holding the bear up by its torn ear. "This ragged thing? It's worthless." And that's when it happened. The door at the far end of the golden hallway opened. The sound of polished shoes clicking against the marble floor echoed through the mansion. Everyone turned their heads. The billionaire himself, Mr. Jonathan Reeves, stepped inside. His presence was like a storm, silent, commanding, and terrifying all at once. The girl froze, hugging herself as the worker stood stiff. Mr. Reeves' sharp eyes fell directly on the teddy bear dangling in the man's grip. The air grew so heavy it felt like no one could breathe. "Whose toy is that?" Reeves asked, his deep voice cold but curious. The little girl swallowed hard, her lips trembling. She whispered, It's my sister's teddy bear. Please, sir, don't let him throw it away." The billionaire narrowed his eyes, his gaze flicking between the crying girl and the stuffed bear that looked like it had survived 100 storms. He stepped closer, each footstep echoing like thunder in the hallway. The worker's hand shook as Reeves reached out slowly. Would he protect the teddy bear, or would he order it thrown away like everything else poor people owned? The girl's chest tightened as she waited, her heart racing so loud she thought it might burst. And just as Reeves' hand touched the teddy bear, everything went silent. 2 weeks earlier, things had been very different. Before we dive into today's powerful story, take a moment to tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice matters here. If you believe that kindness and compassion can change lives, give this video a like so more people can see it. And make sure to subscribe, because every day we share inspiring stories that remind us all the power of love, empathy, and hope. The story began in one of the poorest neighborhoods on the south side of Atlanta. Cracked sidewalks lined the streets, and children played barefoot in yards filled with broken toys. In a small 2-bedroom apartment at the edge of the block, Kayla Johnson, a bright-eyed 12-year-old girl with braided hair, shared a room with her younger sister, Ariana, who was just 7. Life wasn't easy for the Johnson family. Their mother, Denise, worked long shifts at a diner, often leaving before sunrise and returning long after the sun went down. Their father had disappeared years ago, and the girls had learned to rely on each other more than anyone else. Ariana's favorite possession in the whole world was a faded brown teddy bear named Buttons. The bear's fur was thinning, one button eye was missing, and the stitching along its side had been patched up many times. But to Ariana, Buttons wasn't just a toy. He was a friend, a comfort, a reminder that love could survive even in the hardest places. Kayla often teased her little sister. "That bear looks like it's been through a war," she laughed one night, tucking Ariana into bed. "But he always keeps me safe," Ariana whispered, hugging Buttons tightly. Kayla smiled, brushing her sister's forehead. "Then I guess we'll keep him forever." But forever, as Kayla would soon learn, had a way of ending too soon. The day tragedy struck, it was just another hot afternoon in the neighborhood. Kids chased each other on bikes. Car horns blared in the distance, and music drifted from passing cars. Kayla had gone to the corner store to grab milk with a few dollars her mom had left on the counter. By the time she came back, everything had changed. Neighbors stood outside in shock, pointing toward her building. Black smoke poured from the upstairs window. Flames licked the curtains as firefighters rushed inside. Kayla's heart dropped. She sprinted toward the building, screaming, "Ariana! Ariana!" A strong hand grabbed her before she could reach the door. "No, kid, it's too dangerous," a firefighter yelled, holding her back. Kayla's lungs burned as tears blurred her eyes. She could hear her mother's screams echoing from somewhere down the street. In that moment, all she wanted was to see Ariana run out of the smoke, clutching Buttons like always. But she never did. By the time the fire was out, The Johnsons' apartment was gone. The place they had called home was nothing but charred wood and ashes. And Ariana, she didn't make it out. The only thing the firefighters found in the wreckage was a half-burned teddy bear. Buttons. Kayla held in her trembling hands, pressing her face into its smoky fur. From that day on, she swore she would never let it go. The Johnsons were taken in by a community shelter. Life grew harder. Denise worked even longer hours trying to rebuild, and Kayla carried the weight of holding herself together while grieving her sister. Everywhere she went, she carried Buttons. Some people stared, some pitied, but Kayla didn't care. That teddy bear was the last piece of her sister she had left. And then came the news that would change everything. A wealthy benefactor had offered to sponsor a few families from the shelter, giving them temporary housing in one of his properties while they got back on their feet. That benefactor was billionaire Jonathan Reeves. Kayla didn't know his name at the time. She only knew that her mom was nervous. The shelter workers were buzzing with excitement. And suddenly, they were packing up what little they had left. When the Johnsons arrived at Reeves' sprawling estate, it felt like another world. Marble floors, shining chandeliers, endless hallways. Kayla's heart pounded as she clutched Buttons tighter than ever. She was surrounded by wealth, but all she could think about was her sister's smile, the one she would never see again. She had no idea that the teddy bear would soon spark a confrontation that could change everything. Now, standing in that golden hallway, Kayla's voice cracked as she begged, "Please, don't throw away my sister's teddy bear." The worker sneered, ready to toss it into the trash bin once and for all. And just then, the billionaire walked in. Would he see the teddy bear as trash or as something worth saving? The answer, Kayla realized, might decide her future. The air inside the mansion was so heavy, you could almost hear the silence pressing down on everyone. Kayla's small fingers gripped her shirt, her eyes fixed on the billionaire, who now stood just a few steps away. The worker still held the teddy bear, dangling it like a piece of trash. But Jonathan Reeves' gaze stayed locked on it, his face unreadable. "Put that down," Reeves said finally, his deep voice slicing through the tension. The worker froze, his eyes darting nervously. "Sir, it's just an old—" I said, "Put it down." Reeves' tone grew sharper, leaving no room for argument. The man quickly lowered the teddy bear into Kayla's hands. She snatched it back and hugged it close, whispering, "It's okay, Buttons. I got you." For the first time, Reeves' eyes met Kayla's. They weren't cruel, but they weren't soft either. He studied her as though trying to figure out why a child would fight so hard over something so small, so broken, so worthless. "Why is that toy so important to you?" Reeves asked. His voice was calm now, but heavy, as though the answer mattered more than Kayla could imagine. Kayla's lips trembled. Her throat felt dry, but she forced the words out. "It was my sister's. She died in the fire. It's all I have left of her." A hush fell over the hallway. Even the worker looked away, embarrassed. Reeves' expression didn't change much, but his eyes softened just slightly. He gave a curt nod. "Then it stays. Nobody touches it again." Kayla blinked, unsure she'd heard correctly. "Oh, really?" "Yes." Reeves turned sharply toward the worker. "And if I ever see you disrespecting this girl's belongings again, you won't be working here another day. Do I make myself clear?" "Yes, sir." "Absolutely, sir," the man stammered, his face pale. Reeves gave Kayla one last look before walking down the hall, his expensive shoes tapping against the marble floor. The echo of his steps lingered even after he disappeared around the corner. Kayla hugged Buttons tighter, her heart pounding. For the first time since the fire, she felt safe. But she had no idea that Reeves' decision to spare her teddy bear was only the beginning. Later that night, Kayla sat on the small bed in the guest wing of the mansion. The room was bigger than the apartment she and Ariana had shared. Golden lamps glowed softly against the white walls, and the carpet felt like clouds beneath her toes. But none of it mattered to Kayla. She sat cross-legged on the bed, brushing her fingers over Buttons' worn fur. "Don't worry," she whispered. "Nobody's gonna take you away again. I promise Ariana I protect you, and I will." Her mother, Denise, peeked into the room. She looked exhausted, her uniform from the diner wrinkled and her eyes heavy with shadows. Yet she managed to smile. "Sweetheart, you should try to get some rest. We've been given a chance here. Don't waste it worrying about an old toy." Kayla frowned, hugging Buttons. "It's not just a toy, Mama. It's her." Denise's smile faded. She walked over and sat beside Kayla, pulling her daughter close. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of Ariana's absence filled the silence. Finally, Denise whispered, "I know, baby. I know." She kissed Kayla's forehead and stood. "Get some sleep? Tomorrow's going to be a long day." Kayla lay down, still clutching Buttons. She closed her eyes, but her mind replayed the moment in the hallway, the worker trying to throw the bear away, Reeves' piercing stare, his commanding voice. Why had a man so rich, so powerful, cared about her teddy bear at all? The next morning, Kayla awoke to the sound of voices downstairs. She tiptoed to the balcony that overlooked the grand foyer. Below, Reeves stood in his perfectly tailored suit, speaking to a group of men in suits and women in elegant dresses. "The charity gala will be held here next Saturday," Reeves was saying. "We need everything in perfect order. This isn't just about appearances. It's about responsibility." The guests nodded, scribbling notes, adjusting their ties. Kayla leaned against the railing, her eyes locked on the billionaire. He carried himself like someone who didn't just own a house. He owned the whole world. And yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that something about him was lonely. Before she could slip away, Reeves' eyes flicked upward. For the briefest second, they locked with hers. Kayla's heart skipped. She ducked behind the railing, clutching Buttons. That afternoon, Reeves called for Denise and Kayla to meet him in his study. The room was enormous, lined with shelves of books and polished wood. A fireplace crackled at one end, and a massive desk stood at the center. "Mrs. Johnson," Reeves said, gesturing for Denise to sit. "I understand you've been through a tragedy. My staff and I want to make sure you and your daughter are comfortable here while you get back on your feet." "Thank you, sir," Denise said, her voice tight. She sat carefully on the edge of the chair, her hands folded in her lap. Kayla stood beside her, still holding Buttons. Reeves' eyes flicked to the bear, then back to Kayla's face. "You're Kayla, correct?" he asked. "Yes, sir." "You stood up for what mattered to you yesterday. Most children wouldn't have had the courage. That takes strength." Kayla blinked. Was the billionaire complimenting her? I just couldn't let him throw it away," she murmured. Reeves leaned back in his chair. "Do you know why I kept it?" Kayla shook her head. "Because I respect people who fight for what matters to them. Money, power, possessions, those things come and go. But holding on to love, even through loss, that's rare." Kayla's chest tightened. For the first time, she saw something in Reeves' eyes, a flicker of pain, quickly hidden behind his cold mask. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. Reeves nodded. "You may keep it as long as you wish. In fact, I think you should take care of it. Not as trash, but as a reminder." Kayla smiled faintly, but Denise's worried glance reminded her that nothing in life was free. For the next few days, life inside the mansion grew strange. Reeves' world was one of rules, schedules, and silent corridors. Kayla wandered the hallways, often ignored by the staff. But every now and then, she caught Reeves watching her, not with annoyance, but with curiosity, as though she reminded him of someone he once knew. One evening, Kayla was sitting in the garden, tracing her finger along Buttons' torn ear, when Reeves appeared behind her. "You sit out here a lot," he said, his voice deep but softer than usual. Kayla jumped, clutching the teddy bear. "I just like the quiet." Reeves sat on the stone bench across from her. "When I was your age, I had a little sister too. She loved a doll more than anything in the world. When she died, I didn't fight to keep it. I let it be taken away." Kayla's eyes widened. For the first time, she saw the billionaire not as a man of wealth, but as a man who had known loss. "I regretted it for years," Reeves said quietly. "That's why I told my worker to give your teddy bear back. I wasn't saving a toy. I was saving you from the same mistake I made." Kayla's throat ached, but she managed to whisper, "Thank you." Reeves stood, his cold mask returning. "Don't thank me yet. Life has a way of testing those who hold on to memories. Kayla didn't understand what he meant, but she would soon. The week passed quickly, and the night of the charity gala arrived. The mansion buzzed with music, laughter, and the clinking of glasses. Wealthy guests filled the halls, dressed in gowns and tuxedos. Kayla watched from the staircase, feeling out of place in her simple dress. Suddenly, she heard a voice behind her. "Well, what do we have here?" It was the same worker from before, the one who had tried to throw Buttons away. He smirked, his breath smelling of wine. "Still carrying that ugly old thing?" He reached toward the bear. Kayla stepped back, clutching Buttons. "Leave me alone." The man's smirk twisted. "You think you belong here, kid? You're just charity. People like you don't last long in houses like this." Kayla's stomach churned. She wanted to run, but her legs felt frozen. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw Reeves. He was across the room, speaking with important guests, but his eyes caught hers. For a moment, time stopped. Would he step in, or would he ignore her this time? Kayla's heart raced as the worker's hand closed on Buttons. And just as Reeves turned toward them, the teddy bear slipped from Kayla's grip, falling down the grand staircase, tumbling step by step, until it landed in the middle of the glittering ballroom floor. Every guest in the room turned to stare. The music stopped. Kayla gasped, frozen in place. And Reeves began walking toward the teddy bear. The teddy bear lay motionless at the bottom of the staircase. Its worn brown fur looked out of place against the polished marble floor. Guests whispered, their jeweled necklaces glimmering in the chandelier light, their perfectly groomed faces tightening with judgment. A hush swept over the gala as Jonathan Reeves stepped forward. His polished shoes clicked in slow, deliberate rhythm. Every eye followed him as he crossed the ballroom, his tall frame cutting through the sea of tuxedos and silk gowns. Kayla stood frozen on the staircase, her hands trembling. She had dropped Buttons. Her chest felt tight. Losing that bear, even for a second, was like losing Ariana all over again. The worker beside her smirked, whispering, "Guess the trash finally found the floor where it belongs." Kayla's throat burned, but before she could speak, Reeves reached the teddy bear. He bent down slowly, his expensive suit creasing as he picked it up. For a long moment, he studied the bear, turning it in his hand as if the fate of the night rested on what he would do next. Then he straightened, holding the teddy bear high enough for the entire room to see. "This," Reeves said, his voice carrying over the crowd, "is not trash." The room fell into stunned silence. Even the string quartet in the corner lowered their bows. Reeves' eyes swept over his wealthy guests. "I invited all of you here tonight to talk about responsibility, charity, legacy. But what is the point of wealth if we cannot respect what is precious to those who have nothing?" The guests shifted uncomfortably, exchanging glances. Reeves turned his gaze toward Kayla. His voice softened, though it still echoed through the hall. "Young lady, come down here." Kayla's legs felt heavy as she stepped down the staircase, each footstep loud in the quiet room. She reached the bottom, her heart racing, as Reeves extended the teddy bear toward her. "This belongs to you," he said firmly. Kayla took it with both hands, clutching it to her chest. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice small but steady. The guests began murmuring again, some with nods of approval, others with thinly veiled disapproval. A billionaire defending a raggedy teddy bear in front of Atlanta's elite? It was unthinkable. Reeves raised his hand, silencing them. "This bear represents love, loss, and memory, and no amount of wealth in this room can replace that." His words rang with finality. "If any of you disagree, then perhaps you do not belong here tonight." The worker who had mocked Kayla earlier shrank back, his face pale. Reeves didn't look at him, but the message was clear. Kayla stood by Reeves' side, clutching Buttons, her heart pounding. For the first time, she didn't feel invisible. But as the gala continued, the whispers grew louder. Some praised Reeves' words, calling him wise. Others sneered, calling the moment a spectacle. And among those whispers, new trouble began to brew. Later that night, after the guests had left, Reeves returned to his study. Kayla lingered near the door, hugging Buttons tightly. She wasn't sure if she should thank him again or stay quiet. Reeves noticed her. "You're still awake," he said. Kayla nodded. I was scared when it fell. I thought I'd lost it forever." Reeves leaned against his desk, folding his arms. "You didn't lose it. You fought for it. And that fight made everyone in that room see you. Do you realize how powerful that is?" Kayla frowned. "I wasn't trying to be powerful. I just wanted my sister's teddy bear." Reeves gave a rare, faint smile. Sometimes the smallest battles teach the biggest lessons. For a moment, silence filled the room, broken only by the crackle of the fireplace. Then Reeves' expression hardened. "But you should be careful. Not everyone in that ballroom admired your courage. Some saw it as weakness, an opportunity to hurt you or to hurt me." Kayla's stomach twisted. "Why would they want to hurt me?" "Because you matter to me now," Reeves said simply. His voice carried weight, as though admitting out loud meant something dangerous. Kayla hugged Buttons tighter. She didn't fully understand, but she sensed that Reeves' world was filled with enemies, people who use cruelty the way others use money, and she had just stepped into it. The next few days were tense. Whispers traveled through the mansion. Staff members eyed Kayla differently, some with pity, others with annoyance. A few even muttered under their breath when they thought she couldn't hear. "Why does the boss care about her? She's just a poor kid with a dirty toy. Mark my words, this is going to cause trouble." Kayla tried to ignore them, but their words cut deep. Only Reeves' rare moments of kindness kept her steady. Sometimes she caught him watching her in the garden or lingering at the edge of the hallway when she played softly on the old piano in the guest wing. He never said much, but his presence was enough to remind her she wasn't alone. One afternoon, as Kayla was reading a worn library book in her room, her mother Denise entered with a worried look. "Kayla," she whispered, closing the door, "we may need to leave." Kayla sat up, startled. "Leave? Why?" Denise's hands twisted in her apron. "Some of the other families in the shelter told me rumors. They said Reeves' charity isn't just about helping. They say some people think he only does it to control the poor, to make himself look good to investors." Kayla's stomach churned. "But he saved Buttons. He cares, Mama." Denise's eyes softened, but her voice was firm. "Caring doesn't mean safe. Wealthy people live in a world we don't understand, and I'm not sure we belong in it." Kayla hugged Buttons, her eyes burning. She didn't want to leave. Not when Reeves was the first person who had ever made her feel like her sister's memory mattered. But she also knew her mother was rarely wrong. The tension boiled over a week later. Kayla had gone to the garden again, enjoying the rare peace of a warm afternoon. She sat under the oak tree, whispering to Buttons. Then she heard footsteps. It was the worker again, the same one who had mocked her at the gala. His face was twisted with anger. "You think you're special now, don't you?" he sneered, stepping closer. "Because the boss picked you out of the dirt. But you're nothing. You and that ugly bear don't belong here." Kayla stood quickly, clutching Buttons. "Leave me alone." The man laughed, a cruel sound. "Or what? You'll cry to Reeves again? He may protect you now, but one day he'll throw you out like the rest. And when that day comes, I'll be the first to watch you fall." Kayla's heart pounded. She wanted to run, but her legs felt heavy. Suddenly, Reeves' voice thundered from the path behind them. "That's enough." The worker froze, his face draining of color. Reeves stepped forward, his eyes blazing with fury. "You will never speak to her that way again. You're finished here. Get out of my house. Now." The man stammered, "Sir, please." "Now!" Reeves roared. The worker fled, his footsteps echoing through the garden. Kayla stared at Reeves, her chest tight. He had protected her again. But his face was darker than she'd ever seen. "Why does he hate me so much?" she whispered. Reeves exhaled slowly, his anger cooling. "Because people fear what they don't understand. And you, Kayla, remind them of something they'll never have. The courage to fight for love." Kayla swallowed hard, hugging Buttons. She wanted to believe his words. But deep down, she couldn't shake the fear that her mother might be right. Maybe this world of wealth wasn't safe for them at all, and that fear would soon prove true. Because later that night, as Reeves sat in his study, a message arrived. one that would shake the entire mansion. A threat, not against Reeves, but against Kayla. The paper lay flat on Jonathan Reeves' desk. A single sheet, delivered in an unmarked envelope, slid beneath a study door sometime in the night. No signature, no return address. Just 6 words, written in harsh black ink. Take the girl away or she burns. Reeves sat in silence, the firelight flickering against his sharp features. His jaw tightened, and for a long time, he didn't move. He had dealt with threats before, against his fortune, his company, even his life. But this was different. This was aimed at Kayla, the girl who had stood trembling in his hall, begging for her sister's teddy bear. The girl who had reminded him of his own sister, long gone. He crushed the paper in his fist. The next morning, Kayla noticed a change immediately. Reeves' mansion had always been strict, but now it felt like a fortress. Security guards patrolled the halls. Doors that were once open were locked. Even the garden gate was sealed shut. Kayla clutched buttons as she walked downstairs, confused by the tension buzzing in the air. "Mama?" she asked quietly as she found Denise in the kitchen. "Why are there so many guards today?" Denise tried to smile, but her eyes betrayed her worry. "Don't think about it, baby. Just stay close to me, all right?" Kayla frowned. Did something happen? Before Denise could answer, Reeves entered the room. His presence was heavier than usual, his expression unreadable. "Kayla," he said firmly, "I need you to stay in your room today. Don't go wandering. Don't talk to anyone you don't know. Understand?" Kayla's stomach twisted. She hugged Buttons tighter. "Am I in trouble?" Reeves paused, then knelt down so his eyes were level with hers. His voice softened. "No, you're not in trouble. But there are people in this world who don't like when others stand up for what's right. Sometimes they try to scare those who remind them of their own weakness." Kayla's eyes widened. "They want to scare me?" Reeves' gaze darkened. "They won't succeed. I promise you that." That afternoon, Kayla sat in her room, staring out the window. She tried to distract herself with books, with drawing, with whispering to Buttons, but unease pressed against her chest like a weight. Finally, she opened the window just a crack, letting the breeze in. That's when she saw it. A figure, dressed in black, standing near the edge of the mansion grounds. Too far to make out clearly, but close enough for her to feel their gaze. Her breath caught. She slammed the window shut, pulling the curtains tight. "Buttons," she whispered, trembling. "Someone's watching us." Meanwhile, Reeves was in his study, meeting with his head of security, a broad man named Marcus Hall. "This isn't random," Reeves said, pacing. "It started after the gala. Someone saw that girl with me and decided to use her as leverage. Find out who sent this." He tossed the crumpled note onto the desk. Marcus scanned it, his jaw tightening. "We'll increase surveillance. But if I may be honest, sir, keeping her here may put her in more danger. Whoever's behind this knows she matters to you." Reeves' eyes narrowed. "And that's exactly why she stays. I won't abandon her the way I abandoned my sister." Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, sir." That night, Kayla woke to sound. Tap, tap, tap. She sat up in bed, clutching Buttons. The sound came from her window. Heart pounding, she crept across the room and pulled the curtain back. Her scream caught in her throat. On the glass, written in smeared black paint, were the words, "Give her up." Kayla stumbled backward, dropping Buttons. She tripped over the rug and fell, her cry echoing through the hall. Within seconds, Reeves burst into the room, followed by Marcus and 2 guards. His eyes swept the scene, the painted message, the trembling girl, the teddy bear on the floor. Reeves' face hardened like stone. "Get her out of here," he ordered. Marcus scooped Kayla into his arms as she clutched Buttons again, sobbing. Reeves stared at the message on the window, his fists clenched. Whoever had come this close to his mansion had just crossed a line. The next day, the mansion buzzed with activity. New alarms were installed. Floodlights illuminated the grounds. Guards were stationed at every entry point. But none of it calmed Kayla. She sat in Reeves' study, knees pulled to her chest, Buttons hugged tightly. Reeves sat across from her, silent for a long moment before speaking. "You're safe here," he said. "I won't let anyone hurt you." Kayla's voice shook. "Why do they want me gone? I'm just a girl." Reeves exhaled slowly. "Because sometimes, even the smallest light threatens the deepest shadows. They see your courage. They see what you mean to me, and that makes you dangerous to them." Kayla's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't ask to be dangerous. I just want to keep my sister's teddy bear." Reeves leaned forward, his gaze steady. "And that's exactly why you're stronger than they'll ever be." For the first time, Kayla saw more than wealth in Reeves' eyes. She saw pain, determination, a man haunted by a past he had never spoken of. But before she could ask him about it, Marcus rushed into the room, his face pale. "Sir, we found something at the north gate." Reeves stood sharply. "What is it?" Marcus hesitated, then held up a small object, a half-burned teddy bear. Kayla gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Buttons was still in her arms, safe, but this bear looked nearly identical, scorched and blackened, as though pulled straight from a fire. Reeves' face darkened. "They know about the fire," he muttered. Kayla's heart dropped. Whoever was threatening her didn't just know she existed. They knew about Ariana. They knew about the night that had taken her sister away, and now they were using it against her. That night, Denise confronted Reeves in the hallway. "This has gone too far," she said, her voice sharp. "My daughter isn't safe here. We need to leave." Reeves' jaw tightened. "If you leave, they'll find you. Out there, you'll have no protection. At least here, I can keep her safe." "Safe?" Denise snapped. "She's waking up screaming in the middle of the night. Someone is threatening to kill her, and you call that safe?" Reeves' voice rose, his calm mask cracking. "Do you think I don't know that? Do you think I haven't lived with threats my entire life? I lost my sister because I couldn't protect her. I won't lose yours, too." Denise stared at him, shocked by his outburst. For the first time, she realized just how much Kayla meant to him. But before she could respond, a loud crash echoed through the mansion, glass shattering, screams from the guards. Reeves and Denise ran toward the noise. Kayla, clutching buttons, peeked from her doorway. At the bottom of the staircase, the front window was shattered. A brick lay on the marble floor. Tied around it was another note. Marcus picked it up, his hand steady but his face grim. He read aloud, "Next time, it won't be the window." Kayla's breath hitched. Her knees felt weak. Reeves' eyes blazed with fury. He took the note, crumpled it, and threw it into the fire. "No more hiding," he growled. "If they want to come for her, they'll have to go through me." But as the flames devoured the paper, Kayla couldn't shake the feeling that the mansion was no longer a sanctuary. It was a trap, and she was the bait. The mansion no longer felt alive. It was guarded, lit, and sealed, but in Kayla's heart, it had turned into a cage. She kept buttons with her constantly, her small fingers brushing over the worn stitching, as though the teddy bear could shield her from the darkness pressing at every door. Reeves' men patrolled the grounds in shifts. Floodlights swept across the gardens, catching every shadow. And yet, every night, the fear only grew stronger. Because whoever was out there wasn't afraid of walls, guards, or lights. They were sending a message. "We're not going away." Kayla had trouble sleeping. Dreams of fire haunted her, suffocating smoke, Ariana's cries, the searing heat. She woke each night gasping, her cheeks wet with tears. Denise tried to comfort her, but she could not erase the images. Reeves, meanwhile, became more and more consumed with finding answers. He spent hours in his study with Marcus, going over camera footage, tracing the paper used in the threats, following leads that led to dead ends. One morning, after another sleepless night, Kayla found herself in the mansion's library. The tall shelves stretched endlessly, filled with books whose titles she couldn't pronounce. She ran her hand along the spines until she found a thin, leather-bound journal resting oddly apart from the others. Curious, she opened it. The pages were filled with neat, tight handwriting, letters Reeves had written long ago, but the words weren't about business. They were about a girl, his sister. Kayla sat cross-legged on the floor, reading silently. She was braver than I ever was. She believed in people, even when the world proved her wrong. I promised her I'd protect her, but I failed. The night she needed me most, I wasn't there, and I will never forgive myself." Kayla's throat tightened. She closed a journal just as Reeves entered the room. He froze when he saw it in her hands. "Where did you get that?" His voice was sharper than she'd ever heard. Kayla flinched. I didn't mean to. I just found it. I want to understand why you care about me." For a moment, Reeves' expression hardened, as though he might snatch the journal away. But then he exhaled slowly and lowered his gaze. "She was about your age when she died," he said quietly, "and it was my fault. I wasn't strong enough to stop it. That's why I can't let anything happen to you." Kayla hugged Buttons tighter. Was she in a fire too? Reeves hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. Different fire. Different men. Same cruelty." Kayla's heart pounded. She wanted to ask more, but before she could, Marcus burst into the library, his face grim. "Sir, we have a breach. South perimeter. They've tested the fence." Reeves straightened, his sharp mask sliding back into place. He looked down at Kayla. "Stay with Denise. Don't leave her side. But no arguments." His voice cut through the air like steel. Kayla watched him leave, her stomach twisting. She thought of the journal, of his sister, of the fire that had destroyed both their lives. And she realized something terrifying. Reeves wasn't just protecting her. He was trying to rewrite his own past through her survival. That night, the mansion didn't sleep. Guards scoured the grounds, their radios crackling. Denise kept Kayla close in her room, locking the door, whispering prayers under her breath. But around midnight, the power cut out. Every light in the mansion flickered once, then died. The hallways plunged into darkness. Kayla's breath caught. "Mama?" Denise pulled her close. "Stay calm, baby. It's just the power." But her trembling voice betrayed her fear. Downstairs, shouts echoed. The guards scrambled with flashlights. Marcus barked orders, but the chaos spread fast. Reeves, moving with calculated calm, lit a lantern in his study. His eyes scanned the darkness outside. "They're here," he muttered. A sudden crash shattered the silence, glass breaking in the east wing. Kayla screamed as footsteps thundered down the hall outside her room. "Stay back." Denise hissed, pushing her toward the closet. "Hide." Kayla clutched Buttons and squeezed into the small space, the smell of mothballs and cedar pressing in around her. Through a crack in the door, she saw her mother standing rigid, her hands balled into fists. The footsteps stopped outside the room. The doorknob rattled. Then silence. For a moment, Kayla thought maybe they had moved on. But then, the door slammed open. A man dressed in black stormed inside, his face hidden beneath a mask. Denise lunged at him, clawing, screaming. The intruder shoved her aside like she was nothing, his boots pounding across the floor as he searched the room. Kayla's heart hammered so loud she was sure he could hear it. She pressed her hand over her mouth, Buttons crushed against her chest. The man stopped inches from the closet. His gloved hand reached for the handle. Bang! The doorframe splintered as Reeves fired his pistol, the gun's roar shaking the room. The intruder crumpled to the ground, motionless. Reeves lowered the weapon, his face a mask of fury and cold resolve. He turned to Denise, who was trembling, wide-eyed. "Take her. Get her out of here. Now!" Denise rushed to the closet, pulling Kayla into her arms. Kayla buried her face against her mother, shaking. She didn't look at the body on the floor. She didn't want to. As Reeves reloaded, Marcus appeared at the doorway, panting. "There are more. At least 3 inside. They know the layout." Reeves' voice was ice. "Then we hunt them before they find her." For the next hour, the mansion became a battlefield. Guards clashed with intruders in the halls. Shouts, gunfire, and the crash of broken furniture echoed through the once pristine home. Kayla and Denise hid in the wine cellar. The heavy door bolted shut. The air smelled of oak and dust. Kayla sat on the cold stone floor, rocking slightly, Buttons pressed to her chest. "Mama," she whispered, "why do they want me?" Denise smoothed her hair, though her own hands trembled. "Because they think hurting you will hurt him. But Reeves won't let that happen. Neither will I. Kayla swallowed hard. I'm scared. Denise kissed the top of her head. So am I, but we'll get through this. Upstairs, Reeves moved like a shadow through his own home. Every step was deliberate, every shot precise. Marcus fought alongside him, the two men weaving through chaos. By dawn, two intruders were dead, another captured. The remaining one escaped into the woods beyond the estate, vanishing before the guards could track him. The power was restored. The mansion fell into an uneasy silence. But the damage was done. Walls were scorched, windows shattered, blood stained the marble floors. And in the center of it all stood Reeves, his pistol still warm in his hand, his jaw set in stone. They won't stop, Marcus said quietly, watching the sunrise through the broken window. No, Reeves agreed, but neither will I. Later that morning, Reeves gathered Denise and Kayla in the study. Kayla sat stiffly in the armchair, still pale from the night's terror. Denise sat beside her, holding her hand. Reeves stood before them, his voice low but steady. You both need to know the truth. This isn't random. These men, they belong to someone I crossed long ago, a man who doesn't forgive. He knows I've taken an interest in Kayla, and he thinks using her will break me. Kayla's lips trembled. Why me? Why not you? Reeves' eyes darkened. Because hurting me directly would be too easy. Hurting the people I care about, that's how men like him work. Denise's eyes narrowed. Then tell us who he is. Reeves hesitated, his fingers tightening on the edge of his desk. For a moment his mask slipped, and Kayla saw not the powerful tycoon, but a man haunted by ghosts. His name is Victor Draymont, Reeves finally said. Once we were partners. Now, he's the shadow that waits for me to stumble. And if he's targeting Kayla, it means he's not just after me, he's after what I protect. Kayla's voice shook. And what do you protect? Reeves' gaze met hers, steady and unflinching. Hope. And you, Kayla, you become part of that hope. The words landed heavy in the room. Kayla clutched buttons, her small face caught between fear and determination. She realized then that she wasn't just a scared little girl clinging to her sister's teddy bear anymore. She was at the center of a war she never asked for. And Reeves wasn't just a protector. He was a man fighting to rewrite his failures. Through her survival. That night, long after Denise had put Kayla to bed, Reeves sat alone in his study. The journal lay open before him. He stared at the words he had written years ago, words about his sister, about promises broken. Then he closed the book, his eyes hard. This time he would not fail. But outside, beyond the mansion's gates, in the deep woods, a figure watched, Victor Draymont, and on his lips curled a smile. This is only the beginning. The mansion looked calm again, but it was a lie. The broken windows had been replaced, the blood scrubbed from the floors, and the guards doubled at the gates. Yet beneath the polished surface, tension pulsed like a live wire. Everyone knew it. The attack hadn't been an end. It was only the start. Kayla sensed it most of all. Every sound in the night made her heart leap. Every shadow along the hallway walls made her clutch buttons tighter. But instead of crushing her spirit, fear was beginning to change her. She had seen Reeves fight. She had seen her mother stand up against men twice her size. And now she thought maybe she could be brave, too. Maybe Ariana's teddy bear wasn't just a reminder of loss. Maybe it was a symbol of strength she hadn't known she had. Meanwhile, Reeves could not rest. He stood in his study late into the night, the firelight painting harsh lines across his face. Marcus hovered nearby, speaking in low tones. Sir, we can't stay on defense forever. Draymont is testing your patience. He won't stop until he gets what he wants. Reeves' jaw tightened. I know. He wants me broken. He thinks he can use Kayla to do it. That's his game. Then maybe we should move her, get her out of here, somewhere safer. Reeves turned sharply, his eyes blazing. There is no safer. Draymont's reach is long. If she runs, he'll find her. If she hides, he'll wait her out. No, she stays here. With me. Marcus studied him. Is this about Kayla or about your sister? The silence that followed was heavy. Reeves' hand curled around the glass of whiskey on his desk. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The next morning, Kayla woke to find a small envelope slipped under her door. She frowned. Picking it up, the paper was expensive, the handwriting jagged. She unfolded it and read, "Little girl, you should have burned in the fire with your sister. The teddy bear won't save you. Nothing will. Leave it at the front gate before sunset. Or the next time, we won't miss." Kayla's stomach dropped. She almost screamed for her mother, but something inside her made her stop. Instead, she sat down on her bed, trembling, staring at the words. They wanted buttons. Her sister's bear. Her hands shook as she clutched it. "No," she whispered fiercely. "They can't have him. Never." Downstairs, Reeves studied the note when Kayla finally brought it to him. His face remained unreadable, but his knuckles whitened as he gripped the paper. "This is Draymond," he said finally. "It has his stench all over it." Kayla looked up at him, her eyes wide. "Why do they want my bear? He's just a toy." Reeves crouched down so he was eye level with her. "To you, yes, but to Draymond, he sees weakness. He thinks taking the last thing you love will break you. That's how he works. He doesn't just fight with bullets. He fights with fear." Kayla pressed buttons to her chest. "Then I won't give him what he wants." Reeves studied her carefully, almost as if he were seeing her for the first time. That's courage. But courage isn't just refusing to give up. It's knowing when to fight smart. And we're going to fight smart. That afternoon, Marcus and the guards set up hidden cameras near the gate. A decoy teddy bear, scorched and patched to look like buttons, was placed in a box. They wanted to see who would come for it. Kayla hated watching from the mansion windows. It felt like a trap, like dangling her sister's memory as bait. But Reeves reassured her. This isn't about the bear. This is about the man who wants to steal it. And once we see his hand, we can strike back. Hours passed. The sun sank low, painting the sky orange. The air was thick with waiting. Then movement. A black SUV rolled slowly toward the gate. It stopped. The window lowered just enough for a gloved hand to reach out, snatch the box, and pull it inside. The SUV sped away before the guards could react. Marcus swore under his breath. Reeves only narrowed his eyes. He's testing us. Always testing. That night, Kayla couldn't sleep again. She wandered into the kitchen for a glass of water, only to find Reeves already there, leaning against the counter in the dark. "You're awake too," she whispered. "I never sleep much," he replied. For a long moment, they stood in silence. Then Kayla asked a question that had been burning in her chest. "What happened to your sister?" Reeves' jaw tightened. He stared into the glass of water in his hand, as if the answer might rise from it. Finally, he spoke. "She trusted someone she shouldn't have. A man who pretended to care about us. One night, when I wasn't there, he set the fire that killed her. He did it to punish me." His voice hardened. "And that man was Victor Draymond." Kayla's eyes widened. "He killed your sister?" Reeves nodded once, his face shadowed. "And now he wants to destroy you the same way. That's why I won't let him." Kayla's chest ached. "Then we both lost sisters in a fire." Reeves' eyes softened, just for a moment. "Yes, that's why I understand you better than you think." The following day, the tension in the mansion reached breaking point. Marcus returned from an investigation, his face pale. "Sir, it's worse than we thought. Draymond isn't just after Kayla. He's building something bigger. He's recruiting, arming, spreading money through half the city's underground. Last night's attack? That was only rehearsal." Reeves' hands curled into fists. "He's planning something." "Yes," Marcus said grimly. "And if we don't stop him, it won't just be Kayla in danger. It'll be hundreds, maybe thousands." Kayla, listening from the hallway, felt her stomach twist. She had thought this was only about her teddy bear, about her sister's memory. But now she understood she was caught in the middle of a war. That evening, Denise tried to convince Reeves again. "Take Kayla somewhere safe. Please. She's just a child. She doesn't deserve to be in the middle of this." Reeves shook his head. "There is no safe. Draymond will find her wherever she goes." The only way to keep her safe is to end this. Denise's eyes filled with tears. And what if you can't? Reeves looked at her steadily. Then I'll die trying. Kayla, eavesdropping outside the door, felt her chest tighten. She didn't want him to die. Not for her. Not for Buttons. She realized then that she couldn't just be protected. She had to find her own strength, too. 2 nights later, Draymont made his move. The mansion's gates exploded in fire and smoke as armored trucks rammed through. Guards scattered, gunfire erupting across the estate. Kayla and Denise were rushed into the safe room, but this time Kayla refused to cower. She clutched Buttons, her small face set with determination. "Mama," she whispered, "I can't just hide. If Draymont wants me, he'll keep coming. We have to fight." Denise's eyes widened in fear. "Baby, no." But before she could finish, the safe room door shuddered under the force of an explosion. Smoke filled the air. Figures moved in the haze. And then a voice, smooth, cold, mocking, drifted through the smoke. "Jonathan Reeves," it called. "You always did care too much about little girls. How many more will you fail before you learn?" Kayla froze. That voice, it could only be him. Victor Draymont. For the first time, she heard the man who had burned her life to ashes before he even knew her name. Reeves stepped forward from the smoke, his pistol raised. "Victor." Draymont's laugh echoed in the dark. "This time, Jonathan, you won't win. The girl comes with me, or everyone here burns." Kayla's heart pounded. Buttons pressed her chest. The mansion shook with gunfire and shouts outside. And she realized this was it, the moment everything had been building toward. Would Reeves save her? Would she save herself? Or would Draymont finally finish what he started all those years ago? The smoke thickened. The safe room door cracked. And Draymont's shadow loomed closer. Smoke curled through the hallways like black snakes, stinging Kayla's eyes and choking the air. The sound of gunfire cracked through the mansion walls, a storm of chaos outside the safe room. Kayla clutched Buttons to her chest. She could feel her mother's arm around her shoulders, trembling, though Denise tried to hide her fear. And then his voice again, smooth, cruel, mocking. "Jonathan Reeves." Victor Draymont's call rolled through the smoke like thunder. "You've built your fortress. You've surrounded yourself with guards and guns. Yet you're still the same coward who let his sister die." Kayla's heart skipped. Reeves stiffened, his gun aimed toward the shadowy doorway. His jaw clenched tight, but his hand didn't waver. Draymont stepped forward at last. He wasn't dressed like a thief or a street criminal. He wore a dark, tailored suit, dusted from the blast, and a gloved hand clutched a silver cane. His face was pale and sharp, a scar running from his temple down to his jaw, twisting his smirk into something even more sinister. His eyes locked on Reeves first, then shifted to Kayla. The smile deepened. "So this is a child," Draymont said softly, as though savoring the words. "The one you guard so fiercely. The one with the teddy bear." Kayla's throat tightened. She wanted to shrink back, but something inside her refused. Ariana wouldn't have hidden. Ariana would have held Buttons high, like a shield. So Kayla did the same. She hugged the teddy bear tighter and lifted her chin, even as tears threatened to spill. "She's just a child." Denise snapped, stepping in front of Kayla. "Leave her out of this." Draymont's eyes glittered with cold amusement. Children burn the same as anyone else. Reeves fired. The shot rang out, but Draymont moved with startling speed, twisting aside as the bullet shattered the doorframe behind him. His men surged into the smoke, weapons drawn, flooding the room. Chaos erupted. Reeves grabbed Denise, shoving her and Kayla behind a heavy overturned table. Bullets ripped through the air, splinters of wood raining down. Kayla screamed, pressing Buttons against her face, as Reeves returned fire with calm precision. "Stay down." Reeves barked, but Draymont's voice carried over the gunfire, cool and mocking. "You can shoot 100 men, Jonathan, but you'll always fail the one who matters most." Kayla peeked over the table just in time to see Draymont pointing his cane, not at Reeves, but at her. With a flick, the cane snapped open to reveal a hidden blade, its edge glinting in the firelight. Her blood ran cold. Before she could duck, Draymont lunged forward, slicing the air where she'd been. Reeves slammed into him, knocking the blade aside, and the two men crashed into the wall. "Run!" Reeves shouted. "Marcus, get them out." Marcus appeared in the doorway, already bleeding from a wound in his arm. He grabbed Denise and Kayla, dragging them toward the stairwell. But Kayla looked back. Reeves and Draymond were locked in brutal combat, fists and fury crashing together in the smoke-filled room. For every blow Reeves landed, Draymond struck back harder, faster, laughing to the blood on his lips. "You can't save her," Draymond hissed, shoving Reeves against the wall. "You couldn't save her." Reeves' face darkened. "Not again." He drove his fist into Draymond's jaw with such force that the man staggered, the cane clattering to the floor. For a moment, Kayla thought Reeves might actually win. Then a second intruder appeared behind him. "Mr. Reeves!" Kayla screamed. The man swung a metal rod down toward Reeves' skull, and everything froze. Kayla didn't think. She didn't plan. She just moved, breaking free from Marcus' grasp. She charged into the room, hurling buttons with all her strength. The teddy bear smacked the intruder in the face, just enough to throw off his aim. The rod slammed into floor instead of Reeves' head. The man cursed, but Reeves seized a moment, spinning and disarming him with a ruthless strike. Kayla's chest heaved. She had just thrown her sister's bear into danger, but she'd save Reeves. Draymond's laughter filled the room, even as blood dripped from his mouth. So the child has fire after all. Interesting. Very interesting. He lunged, grabbing buttons from the ground before Reeves could react. Holding the bear by its torn ear, he dangled it like a trophy. "Such a pitiful little thing," Draymond sneered. "And yet it holds all your strength, girl. Shall I burn it before your eyes?" Kayla's heart screamed. "Get him back," she cried, her small fist clenched. Reeves moved forward, his gun aimed squarely at Draymond's head. "Touch that bear, and it'll be the last thing you ever do." But Draymond only smiled wider, pressing the teddy bear close to the flames licking at the broken wall. "Then shoot me, Jonathan," he taunted. "But remember, your bullet will drop me, and my men will take her before you draw another breath. Do you really want to gamble her life on a toy?" The air was thick with tension, the only sound the crackle of fire and Kayla's ragged breaths. Reeves' hand tightened on the trigger. Kayla's vision blurred with tears. She couldn't lose buttons. She couldn't lose the last piece of Ariana. But more than that, she couldn't let Draymond win. "Stop," she cried, her voice trembling but fierce. Both men froze, turning toward her. Kayla wiped her tears with the back of her hand and stood tall, her tiny frame silhouetted against the firelight. "You think the teddy bear makes me weak," she said, her voice shaking but growing stronger. "But it doesn't. My sister makes me strong. She's in here." She thumped her chest with her small fist. "Not in that toy. You can burn it, you can tear it apart, but you'll never take her from me." Draymond's eyes narrowed. His smirk faltered. Reeves stared at her, astonished. For the first time, Draymond's grip on the bear wavered. He studied Kayla as though she were something unexpected, something he hadn't planned for. Then, slowly he laughed, a chilling, hollow laugh. "Interesting," he murmured. "Perhaps you're worth more alive than dead after all." With a sudden motion, he hurled a smoke grenade to the ground. The room filled with choking blackness. When the air cleared minutes later, Draymond was gone. And so was Buttons. Kayla dropped to her knees, gasping, tears spilling down her cheeks. "No, no, no, no." Reeves knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders. "Kayla, listen to me. We'll get him back. I promise you." But Kayla shook her head violently. "It's not just a bear anymore. He took Ariana. He took her again." Her voice broke into sobs, echoing through the ruined mansion. Reeves pulled her into his arms, his face scarred with fury. "Then we take her back. We take everything back." Outside, in the darkness beyond the estate, Draymond's SUV roared down the highway. In the back seat, he held the worn teddy bear in his gloved hand, staring at it with a predator's grin. "Now," he whispered, "let's see how far they're willing to go." The headlights vanished into the night, and Kayla's war had just begun. The night was quiet, almost deceptively so, as if the chaos at the mansion had never happened. But inside Jonathan Reeves' safe house, an abandoned steelworks converted into a fortress. The air was heavy, suffocating. The walls still echoed with the fire, the screams, and the name that had been whispered through smoke. Draymond. Kayla sat curled in a corner, her knees drawn up to her chest. Her arms felt painfully empty, without buttons. It wasn't just a bear. It was Ariana's spirit, her voice, her shield. And now Draymond had it. Her small hands clenched. "No one's going to sleep until we get him back," she muttered. Marcus, his arm freshly bandaged, glanced at her. "Kid, Draymond is not just some thug who snatched a toy. He planned that strike. He wanted you rattled." Kayla's head snapped up, her eyes sharp. "Then he's going to regret it." The room fell silent. Denise paced the floor, her face pale. Reeves stood by the steel table, maps and blueprints spread out before him. His pistol lay beside them, loaded and ready. Draymond's men had scattered into the city. Surveillance showed vehicles fleeing in 3 different directions, but only one carried the true prize: Draymond himself. Reeves finally spoke, his voice hard and steady. "We're moving at dawn. Draymond won't get far. But this mission isn't just about a bear. He wants control. He wants to break us. If he breaks Kayla, he breaks everything." Kayla's fist tightened. "He's not going to break me." Reeves looked at her, searching her face. For a moment, the hardened operative saw not just a child, but a reflection of Ariana, fierce, unyielding. He turned away, jaw tense. "Marcus will trace the SUV to the Port District. He'll try to ship out before sunrise." Kayla stood abruptly. "I'm coming." Denise gasped. "Kayla, absolutely not." "You nearly." "I'm coming," Kayla repeated, her voice trembling but firm. "You don't understand. He doesn't just have the bear. He has Ariana. She's inside it. I can't just sit here while you fight for her." Reeves' eyes narrowed. "Kayla, listen to me. Draymond is a monster. He won't think twice about using you as bait. If you come, you'll put everyone in more danger." Kayla's lip quivered, but she forced the words out anyway. "Then teach me how not to be bait." The silence that followed was heavier than any gunfire. Denise pressed her hands to her face, whispering prayers under her breath. Marcus stared at Kayla like she had just slapped Reeves across the face. But Reeves didn't yell. He didn't argue. He just studied her with a soldier's eyes, weighing risks against necessity. Finally, he exhaled. "One condition. You do exactly as I say. No hesitation. No wandering off. You move when I move. Understand?" Kayla nodded instantly, relief flooding her chest. Marcus groaned. "You're insane, Jonathan. She's a kid." "She's more than that," Reeves said quietly. "She's the reason Draymond is here. And she's stronger than half the men I've trained." Kayla straightened at that. Stronger than half the men. Ariana would have smiled at those words. Hours later, the Port District loomed ahead, a maze of rusting shipping containers, cranes frozen like skeletal giants against the sky. Fog rolled in from the water, swallowing the edges of the dock in a cold, silvery shroud. Reeves led the way, pistol drawn, his steps silent on the concrete. Marcus followed close, scanning every shadow. Denise stayed behind in the vehicle, the engine humming softly, ready for a quick escape. And between Reeves and Marcus walked Kayla, her heart hammering so hard she thought Draymond might hear it. Every creak of metal, every distant clang of chains made her flinch. But she forced herself to keep moving. Then she saw it. A light flickered inside one of the stacked containers. A shadow moved, and in that shadow, she swore she saw the shape of buttons dangling from Draymond's hand. Her breath caught. "There." Reeves raised a hand, signaling silence. He gestured Marcus toward the far side, then crouched beside Kayla. "This is it. Remember what I said. Stay behind me." Kayla nodded, but inside, her chest burned. If Draymond tried to destroy buttons, she wouldn't wait for anyone's command. They moved in. The container door screeched open under Reeves' push. The inside was dimly lit by a single lantern, swinging from a hook. And there he was, Victor Draymond, sitting calmly on a crate, dressed in the same blood-stained suit, his cane resting across his lap. In his hand, he held Buttons by the arm, the bear's head drooping lifelessly. "Jonathan Reeves," Draymont purred. "And the girl herself. How touching." Reeves leveled his gun. "It ends tonight, Draymont." Draymont chuckled. "Oh no, my dear Jonathan. Tonight is only the beginning." He lifted Buttons high, holding the bear over a small metal brazier, where flames licked hungrily. Kayla's heart screamed. "No!" She lurched forward, but Reeves' arm shot out, holding her back. Draymont's eyes gleamed. "Do you see, girl? Power is not in love or memory or sentiment. Power is in what others will do to protect those things. I could burn this worthless toy, and you would crawl across broken glass to stop me. That is power." Reeves' voice cut through the tension. "You're wrong. Power is in sacrifice. And I'll sacrifice everything to stop you." The men lunged at each other, gunfire exploding inside the container. Marcus burst in from the side, tackling one of Draymont's hidden guards. The world became chaos, bullets sparking off steel walls, fists smashing into bone. Kayla screaming Reeves' name. In the chaos, Draymont dropped Buttons. The bear hit the floor near Kayla's feet. Her eyes locked on it. Her chest burned. She dove, scooping the teddy bear into her arms, clutching it tighter than ever before. But Draymont saw her. He roared, shoving Reeves back, and lunged for her with terrifying speed. Kayla stumbled, backing against a container wall. Buttons pressed to her chest. Draymont loomed over her, his scarred face twisted with fury. "You think you've won?" he hissed. "That bear won't save you. Nothing will." Reeves fired, but Draymont twisted, the bullet grazing his shoulder instead of his heart. He seized Kayla by the wrist, yanking her toward him. Reeves shouted. Marcus fought to break free from the guards. Denise's scream echoed faintly from outside, and Kayla, trembling, whispered the only word she could think of, "Ariana." The name cut through Draymont's rage like a blade. His eyes flickered, surprise, hesitation, something unspoken. Kayla seized a moment. She drove her knee upward with all her strength, slamming into Draymont's stomach. He staggered back, cursing, and Reeves was on him in an instant. The two men crashed together in a brutal clash, fists and steel colliding, the lantern swinging wildly. Sparks flew as bullets ricocheted. Kayla clung to Buttons, her heart racing, tears streaking her face. She had her sister again. She had her strength. But deep inside, she knew this wasn't over. Draymont wouldn't stop. He would never stop. The fight raged on, shaking container with every blow. And then, suddenly, Draymont's men lit the docks ablaze. Explosions rocked the ground, fire spreading across the steel jungle. Reeves grabbed Kayla, dragging her out into the night as Marcus covered their retreat. Flames painted the fog red. Ships groaned against their moorings, and Draymont's laughter echoed through the inferno. "You can't run forever, Jonathan," his voice bellowed. "The girl is mine. The bear is mine. And when I come for you again, there will be nothing left to save." The safe house SUV roared to life, Denise pulling them aboard as the docks erupted behind them. Kayla sat shaking, clutching Buttons to her chest, the heat of the fire still burning in her lungs. Reeves sat beside her, blood streaking his face, his eyes fixed on the flames. "This was only a taste," he muttered. "He's not done, not by a long shot." Kayla whispered into Buttons' ear, her voice barely audible. "We're ready for him, Ariana. We have to be." The SUV sped into the night. The war with Draymont had only begun. The night after the docks burned, the city would not sleep. Helicopters thundered overhead. Sirens wailed through every street. The sky glowed faintly red, as if the fire still lingered, smoke refusing to leave the skyline. On every news channel, the same images flashed. Explosions ripping across the port district, black flames swallowing steel, and the name whispered with fear, Victor Draymont. In the Reeves safe house, silence weighed heavier than the chaos outside. Kayla sat on a worn leather couch, Buttons pressed tightly against her chest. She could still feel the heat of the fire, hear Draymont's laughter echoing across the docks. Every time she blinked, She saw him lunging toward her, his hand reaching for her wrist, his voice snarling, "The girl is mine." Denise sat nearby, wringing her hands until her knuckles turned white. Marcus paced the room like a restless lion, his jaw clenched tight. And Reeves stood at the window, his silhouette framed by the faint glow of the burning city. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. "This isn't just a vendetta anymore," he muttered. "Draymond's declaring war. He burned half the port just to send a message. He wants everyone terrified." "He already has them terrified," Denise whispered. "My God, what kind of man does something like this?" Reeves didn't turn from the window. A man who's lost everything. Draymond's not fighting for wealth, not power. He's fighting to destroy. That makes him more dangerous than anyone we've faced. Kayla's voice trembled as she spoke, but it carried a sharp edge. "Then we fight back." The room stilled. Marcus blinked at her. Denise's mouth dropped open. Even Reeves turned from the window, his piercing eyes landing on her. Kayla clutched buttons tighter, sitting up straighter. "You all keep saying I'm just a kid, that I don't understand. But I do. Draymond isn't after you or Marcus or anyone else. He's after me. He wants me broken. And if I sit here hiding, he wins." Denise's voice cracked. "Kayla, don't talk like that. You don't need to be part of this fight." "Yes, I do." Kayla shot back, her eyes blazing. "You think Ariana will want to hide? She's gone because the world doesn't care about kids like us. Poor kids, black kids, girls nobody listens to. If I let Draymond take buttons, then it's like letting him take her again. And I won't." The words hit the room like a hammer. Denise covered her face, tears sliding through her fingers. Marcus looked away, biting back frustration. But Reeves saw something different. Not recklessness, not childish stubbornness. He saw the same fire he had once seen in soldiers who refused to bow, even when everything was stacked against them. "You're not wrong," he said finally. Marcus spun on him. "Jonathan, you can't be serious." "She's right," Reeves said calmly. "Draymond wants her spirit. If she hides, he's already won. But if she stands—" His eyes shifted to Kayla. "Then he'll learn what it means to fight a Johnson." Kayla's chest swelled. For the first time, she felt Reeves truly saw her, not just as a child to protect, but as someone who mattered. Marcus groaned, dragging a hand down his face. "Fine. If she's coming into this, she needs training. And not tomorrow, not next week. Now." The next morning, the safe house gym was little more than a cleared-out warehouse, its concrete floor scarred with old oil stains. Sunlight slanted through high windows, cutting across punching bags and metal racks stacked with weights. Kayla stood in the center, buttons tucked safely on a bench nearby, watching as Marcus wrapped her hands in tape. "This isn't about turning you into some action hero," Marcus muttered, tightening the wrap around her knuckles. "It's about teaching you how to survive, how to not freeze when things go bad." "I won't freeze," Kayla said, lifting her chin. "We'll see." For hours, Marcus drilled her. Stances, footwork, how to move, how to fall, how to use her size as an advantage instead of a weakness. Reeves watched silently from the sidelines, occasionally correcting her grip or shifting her balance. Kayla's body ached. Her lungs burned. But every time she wanted to quit, she looked at buttons on the bench. She remembered Ariana's laugh, her voice whispering, "He always keeps me safe." And she pushed harder. By the end of the day, sweat soaked her shirt. Her arms trembled, but her eyes were steady. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. "You're stubborn. I'll give you that." "She's a fighter," Reeves said simply. Kayla smiled faintly. For the first time since the fire, she felt a spark of strength inside her. But Draymond wasn't idle. Across the city, he was already moving. His men stormed a power station at midnight, plunging entire neighborhoods into darkness. The next morning, banks awoke to find their systems hacked, accounts drained. By noon, videos flooded the internet. Draymond himself, his scarred face glaring into the camera, buttons clutched mockingly in his fist. "This city thinks it can resist me," he sneered. "But the truth is simple. Everything burns. Everyone breaks. And when I'm finished, not even your billionaires will hide behind their gates. The video spread like wildfire. News anchors stammered, politicians scrambled, and ordinary families locked their doors in fear. Kayla watched on the safe house screen, her fists clenched so tight her nails dug into her palms. "He's using buttons like a trophy," she whispered. "Like Ariana's just some joke to him." Reeves' jaw tightened. "He wants us angry. He wants us reckless." "Then let's give him something else," Kayla said. "Let's give him scared." Marcus raised a brow. "Scared? Draymond doesn't scare." Kayla's eyes flashed. "He's never fought someone like me." That night, Reeves put a plan on the table. A map of the city sprawled across the steel table, red circles marking Draymond's attacks. Every strike moved closer to one point, the financial district, where Reeves kept his most secure vaults. "He wants to break the system," Reeves explained. "Money, power, control. He'll hit here next." Marcus frowned. "So we wait for him to come?" "No," Reeves said. "We set the trap before he arrives." And this time, his gaze shifted to Kayla. "He won't see us coming." Kayla nodded, her heart pounding. For the first time, they weren't running. They were fighting back. 2 nights later, the financial district was a fortress of glass towers and steel gates. But on the rooftop of one high-rise, Kayla crouched beside Reeves and Marcus, dressed in dark clothes, her heart slamming in her chest. Below, Draymond's convoy rolled silently through the streets, black SUVs, headlights off, shadows slipping between skyscrapers. Reeves spoke into his earpiece. "Positions. On my mark." Kayla's fingers tightened around the small radio Marcus had given her. She wasn't holding a gun. Reeves refused. But she had a role. Surveillance. Communication. And, if it came to it, distraction. The convoy stopped outside the vault tower. Draymond stepped out, flanked by armed guards, his cane tapping against the pavement. And in his other hand, buttons. Kayla's stomach twisted. Reeves' voice was steady. "Wait, Mark." Explosions erupted. Flashbangs blinding Draymond's men. Smoke flooding the street. Marcus dropped from the rooftop, tackling one guard. Reeves fired from the shadows. Precise shots dropping others. Chaos exploded across the district. Kayla's heart pounded. Through the smoke, she saw Draymond himself, striding forward unfazed, buttons swinging from his hand. He looked up, straight at her rooftop perch, and smiled. Her blood ran cold. He knew. Before she could shout, Draymond raised a small detonator. Lights along the street flickered. Then, boom! A parked truck erupted. Flames shooting skyward, the blast throwing Kayla backward onto the rooftop. Her radio skidded across the concrete. Her ears rang. Below, Reeves shouted her name. Kayla crawled forward, clutching the edge of the roof, staring down at the battlefield below. Draymond's men regrouped, pouring gunfire into the smoke. Reeves fought to push forward. Marcus dragged a wounded guard into cover. And Draymond was staring up at her, his smile wide, his voice booming through the chaos. "Run, little girl. Run back to your shadows. You're not ready for me." Kayla's hands shook. She could flee. She could hide. But deep inside, Ariana's voice whispered, "He always keeps me safe." Kayla grabbed the radio, pressed a button, and shouted, "He's moving east. Cut him off." Her voice rang through the earpieces. Reeves and Marcus pivoted instantly, driving Draymond's men into a dead end. The tide shifted. For the first time, Draymond's smile faltered. Kayla saw it, and in that moment, she knew he could be scared. But victory came with a price. Draymond, cornered, hurled buttons into the flames of the burning truck before vanishing into the smoke. Kayla's scream tore through the night. "No!" Reeves dragged her back as Marcus shouted for cover. The battle raged on, but Kayla's eyes never left the fire, where Ariana's last piece was swallowed by flames. Or so it seemed, because as the smoke shifted, something tumbled free from the truck bed, burned, blackened, but still whole. Buttons. Kayla's heart stopped, but Draymond was gone. And now, the war was personal in a way it had never been before. The courtroom went quiet again after the judge's words. Grace clutched her sister's hand tightly, her eyes wide as though she had just witnessed a miracle and a nightmare all in the same breath. The billionaire, Mr. Donovan Hayes, sat in the front row, his jaw clenched. Everyone's eyes turned toward him, waiting to see how he would react. He had entered this story as a man of unimaginable wealth, used to people bowing to his power. But now, things were different. He wasn't the untouchable billionaire anymore. He was the man who held the fate of two little girls in his hands. "Don't throw away my sister's teddy bear." Grace's words still echoed in the minds of everyone present, even though hours had passed since that outburst. For many, it wasn't about the teddy bear anymore. It was about everything that toy represented: innocence, love, hope. The judge announced a recess, banging his gavel before stepping out. The tension broke into whispers, footsteps, and shuffling chairs. Some reporters scribbled furiously, while others whispered into phones, eager to get the next headline out. Billionaire in custody battle. Poor girl pleads with billionaire. Grace sat back down, hugging her sister Mia, who pressed a teddy bear to her chest as if the whole world was trying to rip it away. Across the room, Donovan Hayes slowly stood, his tall frame towering over everyone. His face carried no smirk, no arrogance. Instead, it looked heavy, almost burdened. Grace glanced up at him, her small frame dwarfed by the courtroom benches. She didn't move, but her eyes silently spoke. "Please, don't take away the only thing we have left." The billionaire hesitated, then walked straight toward them. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Security glanced around nervously, unsure if they should interfere. But Donovan didn't look threatening. He looked human. "Grace," he said softly, lowering his voice so only she and Mia could hear, "I never wanted to hurt you, or your sister." Grace stiffened, unsure if she should believe him. Her voice trembled, but she forced herself to speak. "Then why are you trying to take us away from everything we know?" Mia peeked up from behind her teddy bear, eyes wet and red. "Don't take my bear." Donovan froze. That single line, so simple, so innocent, hit him harder than any lawyer's words ever could. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. "I didn't come here for this," he muttered. "I thought I was saving you, but maybe I've been too blind to see what you actually need." Grace narrowed her eyes. "And what's that?" Donovan looked down at Mia, then back at Grace. "A family, not a mansion. Not money, a family." For the first time, Grace saw a flicker of something real in him. Maybe he wasn't just a cold-hearted billionaire. She thought he was. Maybe there was more. But could she trust it? Before she could answer, the court officer announced, "Everyone, please return to your seats. The judge will be back shortly." Grace pulled Mia close again. She wasn't ready to let go, not of her sister, and not of the little bear that seemed to hold their whole world inside it. The judge returned, his gavel banging sharply. "After reviewing the arguments and evidence, I must make a preliminary ruling." The entire room tensed. Grace's heart pounded so loudly she thought everyone could hear it. Mia clutched her teddy tighter, whispering, "Please, please, don't let them take it." Donovan straightened, his expression unreadable. The judge's voice was calm, but firm. "The girls will remain in protective custody until the final hearing in 30 days. Both sides will present more evidence. During this time, Mr. Hayes will have limited visitation rights under supervision." A collective gasp swept across the courtroom. Grace felt her stomach drop. She didn't fully understand the legal terms, but she understood enough. They weren't safe yet. They weren't free. Mia started crying, her tears falling onto the teddy bear's worn fur. Grace hugged her tightly, whispering, "It's okay, Mia. I won't let them take you away. I promise." But as she whispered those words, her eyes flicked toward Donovan Hayes. Because now, deep down, she knew the real battle hadn't even started yet. Point 5. The hearing ended. Reporters swarmed the courthouse steps, shoving cameras into faces, asking questions nobody wanted to answer. Grace and Mia were escorted out by a caseworker, their little hands clutching each other tightly. The teddy bear dangled between them like a fragile lifeline. Behind them, Donovan Hayes exited through a side door, slipping into a sleek black car. The glass windows tinted dark, hiding his face from the public. but not from the storm brewing inside him. As the car drove away, Donovan replayed everything in his mind. Grace's trembling voice, Mia's tearful plea, the way the teddy bear had suddenly become more powerful than all his money combined. He leaned back in the leather seat, closing his eyes. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like the man in control. For the first time, he felt like he was on trial too. Meanwhile, Grace and Mia were placed in a small foster home for the night. The house smelled of old wood and soup, nothing like their own broken-down apartment, but it wasn't home either. Mia curled up on the bed, clutching her teddy tightly. Her small voice broke the silence. "Grace, do you think he's going to take us away?" Grace hesitated. She wanted to say no. She wanted to promise her sister everything would be fine. But the truth was, she didn't know. Instead, she brushed Mia's hair gently and said, "No matter what happens, we'll stay together. I won't let anyone tear us apart." Mia sniffled, then buried her face in the bear's fur. Grace lay beside her, staring at the ceiling. She thought about the billionaire, about his strange moment of vulnerability in the courtroom. Maybe he wasn't all bad. Maybe, just maybe, he could change. But change or not, she had one mission: protect Mia. At all costs. Back in his mansion, Donovan Hayes stood alone in his study, staring at a photograph he hadn't looked at in years. It was a picture of him as a boy, holding a teddy bear just like Mia's. His mother had given it to him before she died. He set the photo down slowly, whispering to himself, "Maybe I've been fighting the wrong battle all along." But just as that thought sank in, his phone buzzed. It was his lawyer. "Donovan," the voice said sharply, "we've uncovered something big. Something that could change the entire case." Donovan's grip tightened around the phone. "What is it?" The lawyer's voice dropped lower, filled with urgency. "You need to see this. Now!" Donovan's eyes darkened, and for the first time since the trial began, he felt a surge of cold determination return. Because if what his lawyer hinted was true, then the fight for Grace, Mia, and that little teddy bear was about to explode into something far bigger than anyone could have imagined. And this time, no one would leave unscathed. The night had fallen heavy over the city, wrapping everything in shadows. Grace lay awake in the small foster home bedroom, staring at the cracked ceiling. Her sister Mia snored softly beside her, arms wrapped tightly around the old teddy bear as though it were her only shield. Grace turned to look at Mia's face. Innocent, fragile, yet somehow stronger than most grown-ups she knew. "Don't worry, Mia," Grace whispered under her breath, though Mia was already asleep. "I'll never let anyone take you away. I promise." But deep inside, doubt gnawed at her. Promises were easy to make, harder to keep, especially when billionaires and judges stood against you. At the same time, across town, Donovan Hayes sat in his towering glass mansion, its light spilling out like golden fire against the night. His lawyer, Victor Reed, had just arrived, carrying a leather briefcase that looked far too heavy for something made of paper. "Close the door," Victor ordered as he stepped inside. Donovan complied, a rare uneasiness creeping through him. He was used to power, used to control. But tonight, something felt different. Victor placed the briefcase on the desk, snapped it open, and slid a thick folder across. "You need to see this," he said. Donovan flipped it open. Inside were photographs, documents, and court transcripts. His eyes scanned the first page and his stomach tightened. "This can't be real," he muttered. Victor leaned forward, his expression grim. "It's real, and if we use it correctly, it changes everything." Donovan's jaw tightened. On the paper before him was a shocking revelation. The girl's late father hadn't just been a factory worker, as everyone thought. He had once been an employee at Hayes Industries, a loyal man who had blown the whistle on corruption within the company 10 years earlier. A whistleblower. And shortly after that, he'd lost everything: his job, his benefits, his reputation. He spiraled into poverty, dragging his family down with him. Donovan felt the blood drain from his face. His own company, his own board of directors. His empire had crushed this man's life. And now his daughters were the ones left behind, clinging to scraps of survival. The teddy bear, the pleas, the mistrust. It all made sense now. Donovan slammed the folder shut, his voice shaking with anger. Are you telling me my own company destroyed those girls' lives? Victor nodded. Not just the company. The board. They buried it, quieted the press, paid off the regulators. Your name was kept clean, but your empire was built partly on their suffering. Donovan pushed back from his chair, pacing across the room. For years, he had prided himself on being a self-made man, blind to the trail of destruction his wealth had left behind. And now, those very children sat in court, begging for nothing more than to keep a teddy bear. I can't let this stand, Donovan muttered. His voice was low, but heavy with conviction. Not anymore. Victor raised an eyebrow. Be careful. If this comes out, it could ruin you. The media will tear you apart. Your board will turn on you. You'll lose billions. Donovan turned sharply, his eyes cold. Then let them. I'm done hiding. If I lose everything but save those girls, then maybe for once in my life, I'll actually be worth something. The next morning, Grace woke to the sound of knocking at the foster home door. She sat up quickly, heart pounding. Was it more caseworkers? Lawyers? Reporters? The foster mother shuffled to the door and opened it. Standing outside was Donovan Hayes. Grace froze. Her first instinct was to grab Mia and run. But Mia stirred awake, rubbing her eyes, still clutching the teddy bear. Donovan removed his hat respectfully, his voice soft. I'm not here to take anything. I just need to talk. Grace glared at him, protective as ever. Why are you here? Didn't you do enough in court already? Donovan's face softened. I found something. Something about your father, and you both deserve to know the truth. Grace hesitated, torn between distrust and curiosity. The truth? Donovan nodded. Your father wasn't a failure. He wasn't what people said he was. He was brave. He tried to stand up for what was right. And my company, my people, destroyed him for it. Grace's eyes widened. She sat frozen, struggling to process his words. For years, she had believed the world's story about her father, that he was weak, unreliable, a man who left them with nothing. But now, this billionaire was saying otherwise. Donovan crouched down, leveling himself with Mia, who clung to the teddy bear. Your dad was a hero, and I'm sorry for everything that was taken from you because of me. Mia blinked at him. You're the man with all the money. Donovan gave a sad smile. Yes, but money doesn't fix everything. Grace folded her arms, fighting the storm of emotions inside her. She wanted to hate him. She wanted to yell. But part of her, the part that remembered her father's smile, longed to believe this man was telling the truth. What do you want from us? She finally asked. Donovan shook his head. Nothing. This isn't about what I want anymore. It's about what you deserve. A chance at life. A chance to keep your family and your teddy bear. Grace's breath caught. His words sounded sincere. Too sincere. But before she could reply, the foster mother interrupted. Mr. Hayes, you shouldn't be here. This could interfere with the court's decision. Donovan rose, his expression firm. Then I'll fight this in court. I'll expose everything, even if it means tearing down my own empire. Gasps filled the small room. Grace stared at him, speechless. For the first time since their father's death, someone with power was standing on their side. But power attracts enemies. Later that day, as Donovan left the foster home, a black SUV pulled up alongside his car. A tinted window rolled down, revealing one of his board members, Harold Knox, a ruthless man with steel-gray eyes. You're making a mistake, Donovan, Harold warned. Walk away from this case. Keep the files buried. Protect the company, or we'll bury you instead. Donovan didn't flinch. Do what you must. I won't stop until those girls have justice. The SUV rolled away, leaving a storm brewing in its wake. That night, Grace sat with Mia, telling her everything Donovan had revealed. Daddy wasn't weak, Grace whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. He was strong. He tried to fight for people like us. That's why we lost everything. Mia hugged the teddy bear tightly, whispering into its ear as if speaking to their father through it. I knew Daddy loved us. Grace smiled softly through her tears. For the first time in years, The crushing weight of shame had lifted. Her father's honor had been restored. But the fight wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because if Donovan was serious about exposing his own company, they weren't just battling for custody anymore. They were battling for survival. The following week, court reconvened. The room buzzed with tension as Donovan Hayes walked in carrying the folder of evidence. His board members sat in the back, their faces tight with fury. Reporters whispered, cameras flashing. Grace and Mia sat quietly, their teddy bear between them like a guardian angel. The judge adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Hayes, you may proceed." Donovan stepped forward, his voice strong but steady. "Your Honor, new evidence has come to light. Evidence that proves these girls' father was targeted by my company after exposing corruption. His dismissal was not a failure of character. It was a deliberate act to silence him. The poverty these girls endured was a direct consequence of those actions. And as the head of Hayes Industries, I accept full responsibility." The courtroom erupted. Gasps, shouts, reporters scribbling furiously. The judge banged his gavel. "Order! Order!" Grace's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, someone had spoken the truth aloud. Someone powerful had defended her father's name. But just as hope swelled inside her, a voice rang out from the back of the courtroom. It was Harold Knox. "This is slander," he barked. "Mr. Hayes is lying to protect his own image. And if he continues, we will not only strip him of his company, we will destroy him." The room went silent again. Donovan turned slowly, meeting Harold's eyes. "Then do it, because I'd rather lose everything than let two innocent girls lose any more." The judge leaned forward, tapping his gavel thoughtfully. "This court will take a recess. But rest assured, this changes everything." Grace grabbed Mia's hand, squeezing tightly. The teddy bear sat between them, a silent witness to history being rewritten. But even as relief washed over her, she couldn't shake the fear. Because when billionaires went to war with billionaires, ordinary people often became the casualties. And now, she and Mia were right in the middle of the storm. The courtroom buzzed with chaos after Donovan Hayes' shocking declaration. Judges rarely heard billionaires confess to their own empire's crimes, let alone take responsibility for them. Cameras flashed, reporters scrambled for sound bites, and whispers rippled like a storm through the audience. Grace squeezed Mia's hand so tightly her knuckles turned white. She didn't fully understand the legal weight of Donovan's words, but she felt their power. Her father was no longer a failure in the eyes of the world. He was a fighter, a man who had stood for something bigger than himself. Still, fear gnawed at her, because for every truth revealed, there was someone powerful ready to silence it. Across the aisle, Harold Knox and other board members of Hayes Industries huddled together, their faces dark with fury. Harold's cold, gray eyes flickered toward Donovan with a look that promised revenge. The judge finally called for order. "We will recess for today. This case has taken a significant turn, and I will need to review this new evidence before moving forward. Both parties prepare for final arguments in 2 weeks." The gavel came down, ending the session. But Grace knew this wasn't over. Not even close. Outside, the courthouse steps were swarmed with reporters. Microphones shoved in Donovan's face. Cameras nearly blinded him. "Mr. Hayes, are you admitting your empire was built on corruption? Is it true your company destroyed these girls' family? Do you plan to step down as CEO?" Donovan raised a hand. No comments at this time. His security team quickly ushered him into a waiting car. But Grace and Mia didn't have a security team. They were pushed and pulled by the crowd, the teddy bear almost slipping from Mia's hands. "Please don't throw away my teddy," she cried, clutching it tighter. Grace pulled her sister close, shielding her with her small frame. "Leave us alone," she shouted. But her voice was drowned out by the roar of the press. At that moment, Donovan's car door opened again. He stepped out, walking straight toward them. The reporters fell silent for a moment, stunned that a billionaire would abandon his safe retreat. Donovan knelt in front of Grace and Mia, blocking the cameras from them with his tall frame. "Stay close to me," he whispered. Then louder, to the reporters, "No more questions. These girls are under my protection now." Gasps erupted from the crowd. Grace blinked up at him in shock. Protection? From a man like him? But in that moment, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safety. That night, Donovan sat in his study, staring at the folder of evidence. He had made his choice in court, but choices came with consequences. Already, phone calls were flooding in from angry board members, investors, and even politicians. Donovan, his lawyer Victor, said over the phone, "They're preparing to remove you as CEO. You could lose everything." Donovan leaned back in his chair. "Then let them. I've been a billionaire long enough. Maybe it's time I become something better." Victor hesitated. "And the girls?" Donovan glanced at the photograph of Grace and Mia that he had taken earlier that day. Mia clutching the teddy bear like her life depended on it. "They're not pawns in this anymore," Donovan said firmly. "They're the reason I'm fighting." Meanwhile, Grace and Mia stayed at the foster home, but everything felt different now. Grace lay awake that night, whispering to Mia, "Do you think he means it? That he'll protect us?" Mia hugged her teddy tighter. "I think he's different now, like he finally sees us." Grace wanted to believe that. She wanted to believe that people, even billionaires, could change. But a voice in her head warned her not to trust too easily. Life had taught her that promises were fragile, like glass. Still, as she looked at her sister asleep, Teddy in her arms, she whispered, maybe this time is different." 2 weeks later, the courtroom was packed. Cameras filled the back rows. The nation had been following the case, turning it into a symbol of inequality, justice, and hope. Donovan Hayes entered, no longer in a designer suit, but in a simple gray one. His face looked older, harder, but also freer, like a man who had finally chosen his own path. Grace and Mia sat the front, their caseworker by their side. Grace held her sister's hand. Mia clutched her teddy bear, its button-eye dangling by a loose thread. The judge banged the gavel. "This court will now hear final arguments." The board's lawyer went first, painting Donovan as unstable, reckless, and unfit to influence the girl's future. But then it was Donovan's turn. He stood tall, his voice carrying through the room. "Your Honor, I came into this case believing money could solve everything. I thought giving these girls wealth would heal their wounds. I was wrong. What they need is not money. It's safety, love, family, and most of all, justice for what was taken from them. I cannot undo the past, but I can expose it, and I can stand with them, not above them." He paused, glancing toward Grace and Mia. "Their father was not a failure. He was a man who stood up for truth, and I will do the same, even if it costs me everything." The courtroom was silent. Even Harold Knox shifted uncomfortably, his face pale. The judge leaned back in his chair, thoughtful. This is not just a custody case anymore. This is about responsibility, about righting a wrong long buried. And this court will not ignore the truth. He raised the gavel. "My ruling is as follows. Custody of the children will remain with their legal guardians. However, Mr. Hayes will establish a trust in their name, funded by Hayes Industries, to provide for their education, health, and future. Furthermore, this court will recommend federal investigation into the corruption revealed today." The gavel struck. Gasps filled the room. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled furiously. Grace's heart leapt. They weren't being taken away. They weren't losing each other. They still had their teddy bear. Mia squealed, hugging her sister tightly. "We get to stay together." Grace laughed through tears, squeezing her back. "Yes, Mia, we do." But the story wasn't over. Outside the courthouse, as Donovan left, Harold Knox approached him one last time. His voice was low, dangerous. "You think you've won, but this isn't over. You've destroyed your empire. You've destroyed yourself." Donovan looked him square in the eyes. "No, for the first time, I built something real." He walked away, leaving Harold fuming. Weeks later, the headlines shifted. Hayes Industries was under investigation. Donovan had been stripped of his CEO title, his wealth shrinking by the day, but he didn't seem to care. Instead, he spent his time visiting Grace and Mia under the supervision of their guardian. Sometimes he brought books, sometimes food, sometimes nothing at all, just himself. One afternoon, As they sat in a small park, Mia's teddy bear finally tore open, its stuffing spilling onto the grass. "No!" Mia cried, clutching it. "Don't throw it away." Donovan smiled gently. "We're not throwing it away, Mia. We're fixing it." He pulled out a small sewing kit from his pocket. Clumsy but careful, he stitched the teddy back together. Grace watched, astonished. The billionaire who once ruled empires was now crouched in the grass, mending a child's stuffed toy. When he finished, he handed it back. "There, good as new." Mia hugged it tightly, grinning. "Thank you." Grace studied him quietly. He wasn't the same man who had walked into that courtroom weeks ago. He was different. Human. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked softly. Donovan looked at her, his eyes tired but clear. "Because I don't want to throw away anything or anyone that matters anymore." Grace's throat tightened. She didn't know what the future held. The world was still unfair. Life was still hard. But for the first time in years, she felt hope. And as Mia skipped ahead, teddy bear swinging from her hand, Grace whispered to herself, "Maybe, just maybe, we finally found someone who sees us." Sometimes, the smallest voices carry the biggest weight. A little girl's desperate plea for her sister's teddy bear wasn't just about a toy. It was about love, memory, and humanity we too often overlook. A billionaire walking into that moment wasn't an accident. It was a test of empathy, of humility, and of the invisible bridge between the powerful and the powerless. This story reminds us that kindness doesn't come from wealth. It comes from the heart. That even in the harshest moments, hope can survive in something as simple as a teddy bear. So before you walk past someone in need, before you judge someone's worth by the clothes they wear or the street they live on, ask yourself, would I be the one to throw away the teddy bear or the one to save it? Because in the end, life isn't measured by how much we own, but by how much we care.